Hello and welcome back everybody to the Food Build Factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Quarantine. That's the guy you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first half of the video, and in the second half of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment, and everything else. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This is one of those characters that is more driven around an idea rather than a certain playstyle in mind, and that was basically where I was working from. And on this occasion, what we ended up with was basically something I'm pretty sure I've never done before, which is a power armor guerrilla character. I mean, there's a possibility I have done before. I think there's something ringing a bell where I have used a quad laser pistol, an automatic version, but I'm pretty sure back at the time I was doing a VATS build, and this time around, one further thing that's noteworthy is that we're not using VATS either. And the reason all of this worked out relatively well, I would say, I had a lot of fun with it, and the character is actually quite powerful, is that we are making use of the Gamma Gun. Now, this is definitely not the first time you've seen this weapon on my channel, but yeah, it comes back time and time again just because I really love it. And here you can see one major downside that I often, or pretty much every time I do make a build using a Gamma Gun, I have to talk about this, which is with ghouls there is definitely some healing going on, like the radiation part of the weapon damage that heals ghouls. However, the majority of the weapon's damage is ballistic damage rather than radiation damage, and therefore you can damage ghouls for more than you actually heal them. One thing you have to really keep in mind though is that you're not trying to use the area of effect damage of the weapon, because that is only radiation then. So you definitely want to get direct hits in, which can be a little bit troublesome, but unless you are fighting glowing ghouls, there should not be any trouble in my eyes. As you see here, it's pretty easy to take down all of the standard ghouls with ease. With a VATS build, this would be less of a problem just because you tend to hit the enemy way more effectively. I mean, this obviously depends on your Twitch skills and how effective you can hit an enemy, but this weapon here is really manageable when it comes to recoil. You have a high fire rate and everything, and one reason why I felt like it was actually justified to do another video on this weapon, man, by the way, I just love the reload animation of this thing, is that, yeah, there were some changes quite a while back, so yeah, probably like a month or two ago. Nowadays, the weapon works like it is supposed to be, and what I'm talking about is, for quite a long time, this weapon was actually one of those examples where, yeah, it was an automatic weapon the moment you installed the Signet Repeater modification. I'm pretty sure that's the one. So yeah, that turns the weapon into the one you are actually seeing here on screen, which is this fast-firing, rapid-firing gunslinger weapon, and therefore it should be a guerrilla weapon, right? But yeah, up until like 1 or 2 months ago, that was not the case. This weapon was a gunslinger weapon, meaning that it did benefit from the gunslinger perks, and therefore it was a really good option, to be honest, for gunslingers that wanted to do like, yeah, you know, a revolver build or something. But if you needed some high DPS, you could always use this thing here. Similar thing happened with the 10mm pistol, which had the tweaked automatic receiver, which was benefiting from gunslinger perks. That was fixed even a little bit earlier though, I think. So anyways, long story short, nowadays this is a guerrilla weapon, which I'm actually not complaining about. I mean, it's sad that we don't have this as an option for a gunslinger anymore, but overall, I gotta say, it's, yeah, guerrilla weapons still need a lot of love. There's just not a whole lot of choices you have there, so having one more is definitely a nice thing. And one thing you will notice during the video is that I'm using a lot of hip fire just because I feel very comfortable with it, and we do actually have some perks that help us with it. However, this weapon is getting a little bit of a damage bonus from aiming down sights due to a legendary effect. And yeah, I'm trying to make use of that too. I also have a perk that helps me, crack shot. So yeah, when it comes to the score speed, this could be a little bit tricky just because, yeah, on this occasion we are basically just, yeah, we are relying on RNG to take it down. We do have a perk that helps us cripple an enemy, but as you saw there, you really have to calculate where to do your shots, just because you do have a little bit of travel time to your projectiles, rather than having an instant hit meter. So anyways, on this occasion we were lucky, and I think now that the enemy is on the ground, the Scorch Beast, we can actually cripple it very effectively, just because we do get the hits in. And as you see there, we can do some significant DPS. Now, we're not taking this thing down in a single magazine, but that doesn't really, yeah, that's not really necessary anyways, is it? And here we can see, if you're getting crowded, you can actually just spray and pray with this thing. Keep in mind, as I said, with ghouls, that's not so good of an idea, just because more often than not you're going to hit with the inherent splash damage when doing this, and this will actually heal ghouls. So with ghouls you might really want to try and hit them, or use a grenade or something, but yeah, for other enemies you can definitely spray and pray with this thing, due to the fact that we are actually using a quad version of the weapon. So the base ammo capacity of this thing is 12 shots, or no, sorry, not 12 shots, it's 8 shots, which is not a whole lot. Now, if you're using this as a semi-automatic stealth weapon, which by the way is an option, this thing is completely silent as far as the game is concerned. Yet another reason why I actually like this thing so much. But yeah, if that's the case, you don't really have a problem with 8 shots, or you shouldn't really. But if you're using it as this automatic version, quad is pretty much the way to go. So when it comes to legendary effects, there's actually a lot of similarities as to the railway rifle in terms of what you would probably want to look out for. Now, this thing does have pretty high damage for a pistol type weapon, so you can definitely afford to hunt down a quad version rather than looking for something like anti-armor or something like that. I personally do still like them, depending on the situation. As I said, you can use this in stealth, in which case I feel like fast reloads and a lot of shots don't matter that much. So in that situation, I would rather use something like an Aristocrats version or something like that. But yeah, quad is definitely the way to go for your day-to-day build, and especially on this occasion here, where you want to be loud and proud, want to be seen, you want to be a, yeah, walking around gunslinger. So definitely quad was the right decision in my eyes here. And I did try around with a few other versions. I had an anti-armor version with faster reload, but even with faster reload, this thing just felt like a little, you had a lot of breaks in combat. Now, as you just saw like 10 seconds ago, I am proud to a condition that a few people have, which is premature reloading. But this can happen. It's not something that you have to be ashamed for or something. But overall, the more intelligent thing would be to just empty your shots here. We do also have quick hands as a perk, which means every time we do empty our magazines, we do have a chance to instantly reload, which was definitely more useful when I was still using an anti-armor version of this thing, as you can imagine. But nowadays that I do use a quad version, it still can be fun. We did see it proc during the fight with the Scorch Beast, pretty sure, if I remember correctly here. And yeah, it definitely, it is noticeable, and it's a lot of fun. Especially sometimes it can happen when you're fighting something like a behemoth or so, where you really just mag dump the thing. And if in that situation quick hands procs, it feels so good. You can just, doubling the amount of time you're shooting this thing feels like ages, despite it not shooting for ages. You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy. It is a lot of fun, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Especially since the fire rate is actually pretty fast on this thing. And yeah, as I said, I really am happy with the damage. This thing is really well controllable. Now, I still, for the most part, use it in short bursts, and one thing that has to be said is this is definitely one of these weapons you have to afford, you know, not in terms of being a high entry price. I mean, these things aren't stupid cheap if you want to buy them, trade for them. but they're not super expensive. What I'm talking about is feeding this thing. You're running through a lot of ammo, and after all, these gamma rounds, they do use copper to craft. At least I'm pretty sure they do. I had like 3,000 lying around, so I didn't really mind. But yeah, they aren't lying around everywhere, so you definitely have to rely on crafting them if you're going to use daily ops or how's it called, expeditions. Um, you're probably not going to go out of them with a net positive of shots. So a give me a second. I just unplugged my headphones here. Sorry. Exactly a super efficient weapon in terms of ammo usage. If we look at it here, we burned through like 500 already, so that's something to take into consideration. But it's not crazy either. You can definitely get a good amount of them by crafting, so it shouldn't be too crazy. Now this is something interesting here. I haven't really talked about it, but we are using Strangler Hard Power Armor here. So we do have a bit of acid damage applied to our shots, which I'm not going to talk a whole lot about because, as you will see here, when we fight a level 75 super mutant, it basically is gone. So, as fun as the idea is, and as cool as I would love it to be, other than the visual effect coming with it, meaning that enemies are clouded in this little thing here, for like 90% of your gameplay, this is not going to be in any way, shape, or form interesting, just because, as you see there, even a level 60 super mutant has so much, what is it even, poison resistance, I think, that, yeah, the little bit of acid damage you do due to the Strangler Hard Power Armor sadly lost all its potency, which is a shame. So the reason we are using Strangler Hard Armor more is for the idea behind the character, which is probably what I'm going to spend the rest of the video talking about. Just because, yeah, I think the gameplay speaks for itself here. There's not a whole lot left to say. And yeah, the idea for the build was pretty straightforward. I wanted to make a Zetan character for quite a while. It's not like I have never done one before. For those of you who don't know, Zetans are basically the alien race that is presented in Fallout 76. And yeah, I wanted to make a character based around them. I mean, obviously, given the lore of the game, it's not really lore friendly just because we know we come out of the vault, but you get the point here. And due to the reason that recently we got a skin for the power armor, which is the Alien Invader skin, I think it's called, is basically a power armor skin, the power armor that the aliens used when the event was live, and you get this nice little helmet skin, which gives you the actual head of a Zetan. And yeah, that's basically what I based my character around. And the obvious, very straightforward idea was to use the whole skin on a power armor piece, and then use one of the aliens weapons we do have access to. So we do have the Electro Enforcer, we do have the Alien Blaster, and we do have the Alien Disintegrator. All of them are cool weapons, I really like them, but it just felt too vanilla, you know, throwing the build together. It just felt a little uninspired, as stupid as it sounds talking about aliens in Fallout, but it was a little bit boring. And yeah, what ended up here was I wanted to do something a little bit more special that still is noticeably a Zetan character. And yeah, the headcanon for this guy here is basically that he is left behind on Earth by his other alien brothers and sisters for the simple reason that he contracted some diseases on Earth. He's basically an ostracized member of their society due to the fact that he is contagious. And that's why he's left behind, that's why he is in quarantine on Earth, and this is basically represented by his visuals. He's not rocking his cool alien power armor anymore, he's just covered in dirt and moss from going through all the swamps and everything. He just looks diseased and filthy. And the only thing that's still recognizable is his head, so just looking at him real quickly, maybe with the red storm as a background, that would be cool scenery here. It's cool scenery, but we don't see anything because it's so dark. So yeah, overall, I think the aesthetics worked out quite well. I also like that due to the fact that the Strangler Heart skin on the legs and the Plague Rider skin on the rest of the pieces throw off the overall body structure of our character a little bit compared to the usual combat armor combinations, which I really enjoyed as a theme because it seems a little bit alien. Now it's not too crazy and too noticeable, but it definitely on first glance feels a little bit different to a standard human in power armor, which I quite liked. It's not really something you would actually see on a Zetan in power armor particularly, but I hope you get the point. And overall, yeah, I really dig the aesthetic of this whole character, and in terms of weapon, I still wanted to stay with something that felt sci-fi and alien-ish. But as I said, I didn't want to use one of the alien weapons for the simple reason that when it comes to the Electro Enforcer, it's just a slugger weapon, and I do have a cool slugger build planned in the near future, so that I don't want to miss out on. So that was right out of the question. When it comes to the Alien Disintegrator, there would have been an idea for it, but in terms of visuals, it wouldn't have worked out too well. And as for the Alien Blaster, I did quite a few builds already on it. And so ultimately, my choice fell on the Gamma Gun just because it's always a cool weapon, and I feel like it really fits the character, you know, carrying plague and disease, even though that's not something the Gamma Gun does in game or anything, but the in-lore idea of throwing around radiation at everything, making everything mutate and so on, just really felt fitting for the character. It's just the kind of tech I can imagine a alien stranded on Earth in the Fallout universe could be interested in. Hope that makes sense. Here we do have a level 60 super mutant, a legendary one. Bit of a bad situation for a reload, but overall one thing you probably noticed there is that we are pretty tanky, so we don't really have to worry about anything, to be honest. We have dodgy and really use it to our best advantage due to the fact that we have very good AP refresh, and yeah, we can basically go chew through everything. We do go through relatively high amount of fusion cores, but that's just something you have to live with if you want to use dodgy in a power armor suit. And other than that, yeah, I think you can see what we're going for here. The moment we fight something like super mutants or so, we basically not burn any fusion core whatsoever, just because we get our fusion core recharged from our legendary perk all of the time. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm pretty sure, yeah, we still have combat music. There gotta be someone around still. Um, hmm, no, seems quite quiet. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I forgot something that I wanted to mention about the backstory of this character, but you're not here for the headcanon anyway. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the build so far, and now we're going to take a look at the rest of the build in detail, which is the perks, mutations, and everything. So, let's look at our character here. And now we're going to take a look and start with our mutations. So, as you can see down there, in terms of mutations, there is a lot of standard stuff that you would expect from a gunslinger here. There's one mutation in there that really is just dead weight, but I didn't want to get rid of it just because, as you know, it's a chance-based game, and I would have had to re-add the other the other mutations for basically no reason whatsoever, because I'm talking about Eagle Eyes, and the only downside we do have is -1 strength, which doesn't alter our character too much, just in terms of carry weight. With that being said, what we do have here is Adrenal Reaction. It's just one of these mutations you can basically throw onto every single character, especially if you have Class Freak on, just because the downsides of -12 HP is so minimal that even if you're not a low health build, it can happen every now and then that you're running around at like 80, 70, 60% health. It's just bound to happen every now and then on most characters, and therefore, yeah, for a lot of the gameplay time, you do actually get some extra damage out of it for a minimal downside of having 12 HP less, which, considering the fact that we are at a standard 348 HP, just isn't the world, is it? Then we do have Bird Bones. Now, on this occasion, we don't actually need agility for anything, especially. We're not using a jetpack, we're not using stealth, and we're not using vets either, so agility is not as important as most of the time it is. But the fact we're using bird bones is just because it reduces the fall damage, and especially if you are in power armor, this can be really a quality of life thing, just because, yeah, when you're running around, you're jumping off little cliffs, especially with marsupial, you always get into the stagger animation of a power armor landing, which is quite annoying. And with bird bones, you can significantly reduce the amounts of time that happens. Then we go over to Egghead. This just felt kind of appropriate. We're not a intelligence-based character. We're not trying to min-max intelligence to its fullest. But yet again, the debuff is relatively minor. We do have -1 to strength, which is absolutely irrelevant to our character. We have more than enough carry weight, so that's the only thing affected here, and we're not using melee damage, so might as well be -4 strength. Endurance, we actually have relatively high base endurance, but yeah, -1 still isn't the world, and yeah, that's basically it. So having more intelligence means a little more experience, and that's basically it. And last but not least, we do have marsupial and speed demon, which, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say here. More jump height, more reload speed, and more movement speed. That's all just nice, and carry weight doesn't hurt either. So yeah, that's it. In terms of mutations, there's actually not a whole lot going on here. Now, one noteworthy mention, especially with the background of the character, is that Plague Rider could have been an interesting addition here, but only for the visuals. Basically, what I said about the Strangleheart armor is all applying to the Plague Rider mutation as well. It would have been cool and thematically fitting, but I didn't bother to hunt down the mutation serum on this private world for the simple reason that it wouldn't have done too much. It would have been a little bit of a headcanon tweak, to be honest, and that's it. So yeah, you can consider using it, obviously, but other than that, it's not really necessary. With that being said, going over to our equipment, we have it here. It is our quad, 25 damage while aiming, 50% slower braking, gamma gun. As you can see there, we do have the standard dish, the sharpshooter's grip, and the signal repeater. And in terms of modifications, now the sharpshooter's grip and the signal repeater, those should be pretty obvious. Signal repeater giving us the fast fire rate and turning this into a guerrilla weapon. Sharpshooter's grip just gives you more accuracy. The reason I went for the standard dish and not the deep dish is that in terms of damage, it only changes the radiation part of the damage to make it quite high. I think it would boost it to 150 radiation damage or something like that. Which on paper, I mean, even then you can easily kill ghouls, so it wouldn't be a downside. However, it's not really a benefit either, just because most enemies aren't um, particularly susceptible to radiation damage, and in addition to that, it would increase our range. Sorry, I really had a hanger here. It would increase our range by quite a bit, from 120 to I think 200 it is. So that would be nice, but this really isn't the sharpshooter's weapon, despite the sharpshooter's grip. But if you use it in VATS, you can actually get some really long distance kills in here. But for us, especially with the crackshot perk, 120 range is actually really good. You're rarely going to fight outside of that range anyways. So I ultimately decided against it, just because it can be a little bit of a difference when you're fighting enemies that do get healing from radiation. So yeah, and I didn't really see a whole lot of benefit to using it. So yes, that's why I have the standard dish and not the deep dish. However, keep in mind, both would be viable choices, and you probably it shouldn't make too much of a difference. You get the point? So yeah, that's it. In terms of legendary effects, I have talked a lot about quad. for the secondary effect, I mean, 25 damage while aiming is hardly the best thing in the world. I think it's nice, it's noticeable, gives gives the weapon a little bit of character. In terms of raw damage output, faster fire rate would probably be the way to go here. However, it's already so fast firing that it ultimately didn't matter too much here. Let's say that way, if I was going for a VATS build, I would always go down the route of VATS hit chance or better VATS crits. So yeah, that's it. And for the last effect, breaking slower, obviously this is a convenience thing. You can definitely, most of you are probably swimming in weapon repair kits, so faster reload would be nice here, but that's basically it. Um, Reduced weight doesn't do a whole lot here, so there really isn't a whole lot of stuff you want to have on this particular character. So really the decision was down to either breaking slower or faster reload, and ultimately I got this one here from Legendary Crafting and I was quite happy with it. And seeing how we do have Gunsmith on and the Legendary effect, and we went through like 60% condition over the duration of the video, it's probably not a bad decision to have this on. I think this is basically the better legendary effect you can get for this weapon, just because it spares you a lot of repairs, but that's basically it. And yeah, with that being said, I think we can go over and move on to our armor, which is all over the place. Now, I do have Strangler armor, Strangler Heart power armor. The modifications for this is basically modifications for ultrasight armor, which, as you probably know, aren't too easy to get, which is why we do have kinetic servos on our legs rather than calibrated shocks. However, in terms of carry weight, we're still really fine. In terms of the helmet, I do have a data-based helmet, meaning we do have some extra intelligence yet again, in addition to Egghead. And other than that, my goal was just to have a full set of AP refresh for one simple reason, which is I didn't really need anything in particular, but I wanted to have Dodgy being really effective. And talking about that, on the torso we do have a kinetic dynamo as a modification, which makes it so taking damage recharges action points, which obviously synergizes very well with a perk that takes action points from you when being hit. So yeah, that's it. The rest of the effects on the weapon are very random, like nocturnal, cloaking, bolstering. There's nothing interesting here. It's just a full set of AP refresh. And that's all you need, to be honest. Going over to our perks, we start off with Strength, Traveling Pharmacy, that's all we need. Now, something I haven't really mentioned on this character is it's really well equipped in order to use chems like Psycho Buff. That's probably the best one you can use in order to give you a little bit more damage and tankiness in combat. So carrying a lot of them around requires Traveling Pharmacy here, and that's basically it. You can carry a lot of Stimpaks and Psycho Buff and so on. Which, yeah, as you probably know, in power armor, you can't just use the chemist's backpack modification just because you can't use the backpack, and therefore, yeah, strength 3, traveling pharmacy. That's it. Now, one thing you will see pretty quickly here is that we have a very unusual distribution of special attributes. High endurance combined with high agility, mediocre luck, and mediocre rest. Um, that's a very, very odd combination, but so is the character. Talking about perception, which is relatively low at 6, we do have Tank Killer and Crackshot here. So Tank Killer, this is definitely your priority. It gives a stagger chance and, more importantly, armor penetration for pistols and rifles. So yeah, this is really important. The extra armor penetration gives you quite a lot more damage, so this is kind of a must-have. And not that much of a must-have is Crackshot here. 30% more range and accuracy when aiming down sights with pistols. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessary, but it was nice. I had the points left, what should I say? Synergizes well with the 25 extra damage while aiming down sights, but let's face it, if you don't use this perk, you probably won't notice too much. However, it's nice to have. Then I had Endurance, which I wanted to have maxed out, just because, yeah, this was a loud and proud kind of character. No taking cover, no stealth. So, yeah, just a few more hit points going on, and I filled it with Life Giver for yet more hit points, then Chem Fiend and Chem Resistant, so I can use as many chems as I want without getting addicted, and they last longer. So yeah, Psycho Buff lasts about 8 minutes with this, so nice to have. Basically, it's a whole daily ops mission worth of one chem, so yeah, nice to have. Then we do have Ghoulish, which gives you, which heals you whenever you take radiation damage. Now, this is kind of a filler perk. It's not especially useful, just because, yeah, we have such high radiation resistance being in power armor, and at that in one that actually has relatively good radiation resistance on top of it. But whenever you are in a nuke zone, for example, or near a fissure site, it's actually enough so that you get some healing going on, and it felt yet again rather fitting for the character for no particular reason, to be honest. But I decided that yeah, I wanted to have this. And lastly, we do a Fireproof, which is just straightforward, one of the better perks and less situational, but one that just happens all of the time that you need it. And yeah, it reduces damage from explosions mainly. That's the reason we do have it. Going over to Charisma, this is basically my chalk standard combination in Charisma. 7 Charisma, Tenderizer at rank 3, and Lone Wanderer at rank 4. It's a very, whenever you're not planning to be in a team, which for no particular reason, yet again, on this occasion I decided to be, this should be a Lone Wanderer character, then this is a good combination. A bit more tankiness, yet again, a little bit more AP refresh from Lone Wanderer is nice to have. And with the weapon firing so fast, Tenderizer was kind of a no-brainer. 10% multiplicative damage after every first hit. That's great. So not need to talk about it on this occasion. When it comes to intelligence, obviously we want to carry around quite a few fusion cores for our power armor, and in addition to that, we want to carry around a ton of gamma rounds, which are both energy weapon ammo, and therefore, yeah, reducing their weight by 90% is kind of mandatory, I would say. It's not necessarily you can get away with like 40 pounds of or 30 pounds of ammo, but still, it's a burden, and having batteries included on is nice here. And yeah, gunsmith just for the convenience of not repairing your weapon every so often. So yeah, not a whole lot to say here. More interesting it gets with agility, which unsurprisingly is maxed out, which is basically always the case when you're doing a gunslinger or guerrilla character. But on this occasion we are starting off with one perk I'm not quite sure I have ever shown off, which is Modern Renegade, giving 12% chance to cripple a limb to pistols and 45% extra hipfire chance. So this is actually pretty nice. It's one of those perks that would always be cool whenever you use a gunslinger, but it's just rarely ever going to be used just because there's better options within agility. So yeah, you're probably never gonna use this in any other combination of builds just because, yeah, of convenience cost. Which even on this occasion I could have used adrenaline, it would have probably been the better decision. But yeah, as I just said, Modern Renegade is nice to have for once, and the 12% crippling chance actually happens to happen relatively often. It works quite well, which isn't always the case with such fast-firing weapons. Then we do have Guerrilla, which is kind of obvious. We have all of them maxed out just for extra damage. And lastly, we do have Dodgy. Now, as you saw there probably, I mean, we do have relatively high endurance, but other than that, we're not a particularly tanky character, meaning we don't have a lot of defensive perks on. We basically get all of our survivability from relatively high hit points to begin with. The fact that we are walking around in a power armor piece, power armor set, sorry, and Dodgy. I think Dodgy single-handedly is the most important defensive thing we do have here, and we made every single percussion that it happens all of the time. Like, Dodgy works all of the time. You're never going to run out of AP, even though you do have Dodgy, just because we have so fast of a action point refresh. And in addition to that, whenever we do get hit, whenever Dodgy does proc, we also get AP back just from the fact that we do have a kinetic dynamo on our chest piece. So yeah, makes you really tanky. Simple as that. And lastly, we do have Luck. So we do have Bloody Mess here. which just gives us extra damage, pretty straightforward. So yeah, why not? It's not the world here, but given that the Gamma Gun is one of those weapons that doesn't have a ton of receivers or anything, relatively minor increases in damage can still, according to a perk cut, can still make a relatively big impact compared to other weapons. So yeah, Bloody Mess actually does relatively well. We can check it here really quick. If we look at the weapon, we have 105 ballistic damage at the moment, and without Bloody Mess, we do have 96. So while it's not the world, it's still 9 points of damage, which yeah, pretty significant in my opinion. But yeah, it's Bloody Mess. I don't have to talk to you that yeah, if you have the points, use it. Then we do have Class Freak and Starch Genes. Now these are pretty obvious. Starch Genes especially. We want to keep our mutations, not get any new ones. There are quite a few that have debuffs that could be really um, annoying to us. So yeah, that's why Starch Genes is here. And then we do have Class Freak. Not particularly necessary on this occasion, but we did have some perk points left. So yeah, reducing the debuffs from our mutations is definitely nice to have. And lastly, we do have Quick Hands. I talked about it during the video a little bit. Yeah, giving you a chance to refill your magazine whenever you empty it is kind of nice. It's just too unreliable to ever be a important part of a build, but on this occasion it actually happened relatively often, and whenever it did, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's why it's here. It's not desperately necessary though. And in terms of legendary perks, first one you do have here is Master Infiltrator, and I mean, look at it. We have made a Zetan character build, so obviously we had to have Master Infiltrator here. It's basically a legendary perk that depicts a Zetan alien, which, by the way, I always found funny because there's no apparent reason as to why that should be. However, that's kind of a theme when it comes to legendary perks in my eyes. The pictures just really don't do a good job describing what they're doing, but yes. Master Infiltrator, whenever you use this, this should really be the last one you level up, just because after rank 1 you already have the chance to the ability to unlock every single terminal and every single lock within the game. Higher ranks just make it so that higher ranks of those perks, terminals and locks just automatically unlock, which is definitely nice to have, but compared to the benefits you get from other perks, it's just not worth it in my eyes. However, yeah, it's here because there is an alien in the picture. I hope you understand that. Then we do have electric absorption. I think this is easier to sell here just because, yeah, whenever you are in power armor, this is a great perk. Having a chance to heal you and refill your fusion core whenever you are hit by an energy weapon. This is just so great. It's a super good perk. Then we do have legendary luck and intelligence. Pretty straightforward. Those give us access to more perk points to use. Then we do have Ward Rats. They're definitely overkill on this occasion. Now, if you are in power armor, you're basically never going to need Ward Rats to begin with, and even if you do, maxed out is not necessary. However, I still like it for some reason. It's OCD basically. On this combination here, power armor character with Ward Rats maxed out, you never have to see red in your health bar, which is nice. But keep in mind, you can use whatever you like here. You definitely don't need water rats. And lastly, we do have Funky Dots, just so we have a lot of poison resistance, which yet again felt fitting for this super filthy kind of character, which is really disease-riddled and walking through swarms all the time. So yeah, having resistance to poison felt appropriate and nice, and since we have a full set of power armor, even though it might not look like it from our skins here, yeah, we do actually get the benefit from it, meaning we never have to worry about something like this. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the build, guys. Just let's take a look at our thumbnail here, even though I'm probably going to use another one anyways. Nope, not deleted. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye.